Welcome to Setting the Stage. I'm Brooke Savage. Peter Pan the Musical is at the Dr. Phillips Center now through Sunday. Nolan Almeida plays Peter Pan. Cody Garcia plays Captain Hook. They're both here to tell us all about the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So the first question I usually start off with is, how did you get into acting?
So I started doing community theater when I was like 7 years old, and that was sort of my bridge into it all. I think as it is with many people. And it was more recently in the past couple of years in which I met my acting coach, and she's really when I started to fall in love with acting itself, and because I was sort of more so focused on, the musical theater aspect of it, like the dancing, the singing, all of the adrenaline, like everything about that was sort of what excited me before. And then as of a couple of years ago, I really fell in love with the art that acting is, and getting to create characters and explore yourself through these characters. And so for me, that's when I really started to fall in love with acting, and that really changed my life.
What about you, Cody?
I did theater camps when I was a kid. Actually, the first theater camp that I did was a Harry Potter themed camp, and I was Ron Weasley, and I had this red clown wig on, and it was so stupid, but it was a lot of fun. And it was a nice little foot in the door for performing on stage. And then I started taking camps in all kinds of different community theaters around San Antonio, Texas, black box theaters, thrusts, prosceniums, and so I was fortunate enough to have a lot of experience in a lot of different spaces as a kid. And then I met a great acting coach at the formerly existing Stephen Stoley Playhouse, and her name is Jessie Rose, and she is. Well, I owe everything to her of my acting ability, so there.
Wow, I love that. Someone who also did acting camp and musical theater, I definitely can relate.
So you get it.
Yes. And so what made you want to audition for the show?
Well, I've personally always loved Peter Pan. It's always been one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite shows. I did Peter Pan when I was in fourth grade, and that was one of the shows I was most excited for at my community theater. But I never really thought I'd get to be Peter Pan, because it's pretty much always been played by a woman in the past. And so for me, when I saw that they were looking into casting a guy, and that was something different and something new and something that I could do. And so I saw that online, and I submitted myself for it, and it worked out.
And I was actually doing readings of this show over a year ago. They were developing the script and kind of figuring out what the story was that they wanted to be, how they wanted to change it. The script went through a lot of iterations and differences, and I started doing those readings with Lonnie and Matt, and then they asked me to audition, and I did, and it was great, and here we are.
So you just mentioned it a little bit. This is a completely reimagined show, right? It just started off?
Yes. So there's a lot to it. There's a lot that is from the original production, but there's a lot that has been updated from the original production in order to make the story more accessible to a wider variety of people. They wanted to make it so that any child could feel like they could look out their window and see Peter Pan flying by.
Right. And so how long have you guys been on tour then?
Oh, God. Well, we started rehearsals late October, the day before Halloween, and then we were rehearsing / teching all the way up until New Year's, and then our tour officially launched mid-February. So we've been going 3.5 months, 4 months.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. And were you excited? How did you land your role, and were you both excited to play such iconic roles?
Yeah, I mean, I was stoked. It was a really quick process. I sent my stuff in. I did a tape, and then later that week they called me in to do callbacks, and I was there for 2 days, and then they told me right there that I got the part, and I was really excited. I was really scared too, because it was a huge responsibility and something. It was a whole new world for me, because I had done one professional job before this, and so it was gonna completely shift my life around, and so. That was crazy, and I knew it was a big responsibility, but it was also something really exciting to get to sort of take my shot at this character that I never thought I'd get to do, and sort of try something new with it, but also stay true to what what the writers wanted and what Peter Pan is, and has always been. So. Yeah.
Yeah, going off of that, this is actually my third national tour and my third role that people have previous conceptions about. Previously, I was Buddy in Elf the Musical and Willy Wonka in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I know audiences kind of like have their own versions of what they like about like Gene Wilder versus Johnny Depp and what they like about Will Ferrell in Elf. And so Peter Pan, there's just so many different versions. There's so many different ways to tell the story. I wanted to honor what I thought people were expecting. And I also wanted to give it my own little spin. So that's what I did, and I'm very pleased that I had a director that was so willing to work with me on that. And that we worked well together, I think, and it was a lot of fun.
That is awesome, and you know what? I could totally picture you in those other roles. I bet you were
Thank you. Yeah, those were so much fun. I hope I get to do those roles again one day.
I would love to see those shows for sure. Now talk to us about what it takes for you to perform in a show, because there is a lot of movement going on. So how are you preparing for each show?
There was a lot of training that went into it, beforehand, that makes it easier for us to do our job every day. So for me, I did a lot of physical training because there's the flying and there's all this. It's a very physically demanding role, and so for me that was a lot of. I did Pilates at my local community center, and we did months and months of training, flying training. I took a bunch of dance classes, voice lessons, all the stuff that you sort of need to be able to do an 8-show week, and that in itself has been a whole learning process for me because I've never done 8-show weeks before, let alone 8 shows after 8 shows after 8 shows. And so learning to pace myself and figure that whole thing out was sort of all part of learning how to do the show every night.
We love Pilates.
We do.
Well, there's definitely a lot to it. You have to be able to take care of yourself. You have to understand the stamina that it takes to be able to do the show and also live your life and enjoy being a person. I drink a lot of water, drink so much more water than you think you need. You know what I mean? I'm always trying to drink as much water as I can. And then also you have to get enough sleep, and also you have to do the things that help your own personal spirit. And then also you have to be able to get through the show because, as Nolan said, it's a very physically demanding show because he's flying. We're also fighting at the same time. And, we're swinging actual metal swords around that are clanging each other, and I'm swinging kids around with my hook, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah, so you mentioned it. I actually had a question about this, about the training, okay? Because you're tumbling in the air. That looks awfully scary and close to Cirque du Soleil for me. And your guys are doing combat fighting. So tell us all about all the training that goes into this.
Yeah, so we started work on all that. That was the first thing we did. I remember I got cast, and then 2 weeks later, I was in New York practicing this.
Doing fight choreography workshop. Yeah, that's where we first met. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we met during a photo shoot face to face.
Yeah, the very first time we ever met, we had to put our faces right next to each other. It was hilarious.
Which that never came out.
No, I've never seen those pictures.
Anyway, so flying and fighting, that was a whole thing because at the very start of this, I was a little afraid of heights, which I didn't tell them. But pretty quickly that sort of faded because once you're in the air and once you because there's two guys who fly me off stage, and they do up and down and left and right, and they're really great, and I trust them a lot, and I think that's one of the things that you have to trust people who are flying, because they literally my life depends on them. So I'm glad that they're two people that I trust very much. It's very physically taxing. Same with the fighting. It's a lot of arm work and different stuff. So just figuring out how to do that in your body was something. But that's the first thing we did. So we've been doing that for a long time now.
Yeah, we have a very nice team that does specifically fighting and then specifically flying, and they all work together. So Rick Sordelay at Sordelay Inc. Is our master fight choreographer, and it's wonderful doing his choreography. And then same Paul Rubin is the fly master, the fly guy. And I didn't get to work with him that much because I just hit the microphone because I don't fly. But he's great, and I remember there was one time I was like holding a hook and like sword fighting this kid who's flying around me. I was like, what is going on? that was fun. That was a fun day.
Okay, well, Cody, I know you play a villain,
Mm-hmm.
but how do you relate to your characters? And Cody, this question is if you relate to your character.
Yeah.
You can go first.
Well, I would just like to say here that Hook is absolutely not the bad guy of the story. If we're talking about what happened, it's that Hook and Peter are like fighting. They're like, because that's something that they do a lot. Yeah. And then Peter cuts off Hook's hand and then throws it to a crocodile.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
And then Hook has the hook and then changed his name because he's like, all right, now this defines me, and is driven by revenge. So I think he's a completely justifiable character.
I love that. But how do you relate to that, I guess?
It's
TBD. I think that's probably something that I'll have to talk about with my therapist.
For me, I don't know. It's interesting because as a kid, I always wanted to grow up. I was very much like from once I turned like 8 or 9, I was like I'm done being a kid. Like I've done all the things. I don't need to do it anymore. And so for me, like that was interesting when I got this because I was like those two things sort of contradict themselves a little bit. But then for me, for doing this role, I really tried to find that inner child before I was ready to grow up and before I wanted to be an adult. There's so much of me that was just like, full of joy and full of life. And I think there's still, and then I got older and then I didn't want to grow up. And I think everybody's relationship with growing up is just very complicated, and it remains complicated, like as you grow up through time, like until you're done. Like I think it's a very complicated thing, and so for me it was very important to authentically find the little Nolan inside of me. And so I went to parks that I grew up going to. I reached out to friends that I knew when I was a kid, and so I sort of tried to do all the stuff that I did when I was a kid to sort of get myself remember that place and be able to be honest with performance, so that I wasn't just acting like a kid or acting like this character. So yeah,
I completely agree. Absolutely. So I always love hearing the answer to this question. If you could play any other character in the show, who would it be and why?
I don't know if I would. Tinkerbell?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think that's the only one I relate to. Otherwise,
I don't know. I played Michael when I was little. That was a fun one, but I think I don't think there's any other character that
the first time I read the script, I was Michael. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. That, it is funny because sometimes people do say like it's like their dream role, that they wouldn't want to play any other character.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I think I agree with that.
But then sometimes people say like a character I would never even expect, and I just love to hear.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so, what is your favorite part of the show?
For me, it's the first bedroom scene with Wendy. To get to work with the wonderful actress who plays Wendy. Her name's Hawa, and she's an amazing actress, and she's great at what she does. And so for me, that's the best, to work with an actor who just loves what they're doing, and I can honestly listen to her and just be in the moment with her and not have to worry about the rest of the show and everything else and all the flying and the fighting, and just focus on really, I think what musicals and plays are all about is just that human connection. And so for me, that's my favorite part.
My favorite scene to do is the first scene that I come out and do with Smee and Tiger Lily in a coma. But my favorite part is again with this like connection thing. I don't ever get to do scenes with Nolan and Hala.
No.
It's always like Hook or it's like pan and then hook and then pan and then hook and then we fight. And that's like the structure of both of the acts. So like we never really get to work together unless we're fighting. And there are some small moments during the fights where we can like ad-lib things and I get to like talk to Wendy, but I have to talk to her because like we're fighting, and so I'm like, I'm gonna kill you, and it's fun. But that's my favorite stuff, I think, definitely.
All right, awesome. And what is your favorite special effect from this show? There's a lot of awesome special effects in this show.
Yeah, I think definitely my favorite has to be the magic that is Tinkerbell. I think we had an awesome magician come in and design that. His name's Paul Keeve, and he's worked with so many shows and so many also
he
magicians.
did the original Ghost the musical. He did Groundhog Day.
Yeah, he's worked.
He's done some great stuff.
And I know he's worked with actual magicians on their shows, which like I was geeking out over because I grew up wanting to be a magician for a really long time.
I also did close-up magic.
And so every time that Paul Keeve was in the building, I would talk to him the whole time. Nobody else got a chance because I was just talking his ear off about magic and
that's
and
why I never got to talk to him until later, until we were in tech and he's on stage and we're sitting in the audience. And I'm like, oh, so yeah. Oh, Ghost, you say? But anyway.
But he's great and he designed something really beautiful.
Awesome.
And for me, it's definitely the Flight to Neverland. That's something that I love catching every single night. Just the way that it's very simple, but the way that it's done and the way that it's designed is really, really beautiful and effective.
I think people were really impressed by that part. And also, I still have no idea how Tinkerbell happens throughout the show. But that's cool. It was a real magician. Yeah, I love it. And I found this interesting because I was researching this a little bit. What would you say is the overall message of the show, and what does it mean to you?
You go.
Don't take advantage of childhood. Like, I mean, youthfulness doesn't necessarily stop when you grow up. I feel like there is a youthful spirit that you can always sort of attain yourself to, as evidenced by this kid who never grows up. But also, yeah, I'm going to leave it there for now.
Yeah, I think a similar thing that it's important not to lose sight of the child within us all, but also there's something like so magical about being a child, but there's also something really cool about growing up too. And I think that sort of we see that with Wendy, and she gets to grow up and be a doctor, which she's always wanted to do. And I think there's just in life there's you lose some, you get some, and so I think it's like I think it's just that life is magical, and you can hold on to certain things and to hold on to certain things and maybe not some other things. But that was a weird answer. But
hey, I mean, it's a weird thing.
That's how I kind of saw it, that it's okay to embrace your inner child, but also it's okay to grow up and want to become a better person. That's how I saw it.
It's just like, remember where you've been, you know, like,
Exactly.
You're not better than your younger self, you know, like.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, I like that. And so, Cody, you talked a little bit about it. What are some Peter Pan fun facts?
Okay, so this show has been on stage for 70 years. This year, it's 70 years because it originally premiered in 1954. And I had never seen this show before I got this job, and now I've seen every version of the show, which, because I do that. But 70 years. But my fun fact about Peter Pan in general is that a lot of different versions of Peter Pan sort of add something that sort of just stays true in the Peter Pan zeitgeist. So this is not a Disney show. This is not the Disney version of the show. But the contribution that Disney has is integral to every other version of the Peter Pan story. So like the line "second star to the right and straight on till morning" that's Disney, but originally it was what J.M. Barrie wrote is "second to the right and straight on till morning," not star. And I just think it's interesting that like Disney changed that line and now that's what everyone associates with the story of Peter Pan. And there's a lot of different things like that from different versions that like we as a culture sort of take from these versions and funnel them into what we have in our mind is what Peter Pan is, and I just think that is fascinating.
And so, is there anything else you guys want to bring up about the show?
Well, the Indigenous tribe. We have to talk about them and
Yes.
had the updated version of that. So Larissa Fasthorse, who was our scriptwriter, she wanted to make it accessible to Native American communities and make it so that anybody, like she says a lot, that anybody could be seeing Peter Pan fly by. And I'm very pleased to be in this production that is no longer doing these stereotypes that have been in every single other production. And it's about time that this story gets updated so that more people can come see it.
Absolutely. And so, along with that, I have to assume someone did their research, because before the show at Dr. Phillips, they mentioned which tribe.
Yes. There's always a land acknowledgement before everywhere we go. And the person that you heard talking is our playwright, Larissa Fasthorse.
Awesome.
She recorded all of them, and does the acknowledgments for every single place we go to, and it's really amazing to hear. It's really amazing to be a part of. A lot of the times, audiences applause at that point, and it's great.
Yeah, they did applause.
Yeah,
they do. That's right. Do you have anything else you want to bring
No,
up?
I agree with Cody. I think it's really cool to be a part of something that's fixing some issues. I think that's good.
And it's changing things up that it's changing things up in ways that people haven't seen for Peter Pan before, that are necessary for people to understand. There's not one way that Peter Pan is. We have a Black Wendy. That has never happened before, and we're very proud of it. And Hawa is such an amazing person to work with. I like what I do as Captain Hook. It's slightly different from other versions of Captain Hook. Don't want to say too much about that, but there's the set design is different. It's very Neverland is inspired by a Spanish artist that uses ropes, and it's very, very interesting. And so I think this production is something that anyone can find something that they like about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the things I'm most excited about also is getting to be one of the youngest Peter Pans, and getting to be 17.
We didn't even talk about Nolan.
Yes.
We didn't talk about like
17.
this change here, because like Peter Pan is always played by a woman,
Yes.
which is also a very specific choice, and people have a lot of feelings about Nolan playing it now. But Nolan does a great job. So whether whether or not they enjoy it, it's Nolan's great, and come see the show. You go.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, getting to be 17 and a few years older than a lot of our target audience is something that I really cherish, and something that's really cool, because I've gotten a lot of messages also from people my age and people younger that have said it's really cool to see somebody my age sort of in this role and doing what I want to do, and so I think it's just there's a way in which we're able to connect to this younger audience that hasn't been done before, and so for me that's really, really special.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I love that. Well, again, Peter Pan the Musical is at the Dr. Phillips Center now through Sunday. I'll also post ticket information on clickorlando.com/settingthestage. Cody and Nolan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.